All right, I'd like to call to order the regular City Council virtual meeting for Monday, April 12th, 2021. And if we could all say the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge the allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the
republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Barb, would you call the roll, please?
Lanyon.
Present. City of Williamston, Ingham County, Michigan.
Pratt.
Here, City of Williamston, Ingham County, Michigan.
Bellinger.
Present. City of Williamston, Ingham County, Michigan.
Weiss.
Here, City of Williamston, Ingham County.
Rhines.
Here, City of Williamston, Ingham County, Michigan.
Gilroy.
Here, City of Williamston, Ingham County, Michigan.
Smith.
Here, City of Williamston, Ingham County, Michigan.
Thank you, Barb. And now I'm looking for approval of this evening's agenda, unless there's an item that needs to be modified, changed, or if not, I'm looking for that approval.
Motion to approve the second, Rhines.
All right, thank you both. Barb, will you call the roll for the approval of the agenda?
Pratt.
Yes.
Bellinger.
Yes.
Weiss.
Yes.
Rhines.
Yes.
Gilroy.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Lanyon.
Yes.
Great, thank you. Now is the time for audience participation with a maximum of 5 minutes per presentation. Holly, did we have anybody join us?
No, we did not.
All right, thank you very much. All right, moving on, we've got our council meeting minutes of March 22nd, 2021. I'm looking for approval on those minutes, unless there's anything that needs to be corrected or edited.
Motion to approve the minutes as submitted. Bellinger.
Thank you.
Lanyon, second.
Thank you very much. Barb, will you call the roll for the council meeting minutes approval of March 22nd, 2021?
Bellinger.
Yes.
Weiss.
Yes.
Rhines.
Yes.
Gilroy.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Lanyon.
Yes.
Pratt.
Yes.
All right. Noah, we have accounts payable for this evening. I saw your email with your questions to Corey, which all those answers looked very good. So I will go ahead and turn this over to you.
Thank you. Again, hopefully all the council members had a chance to review the accounts payable. I did have questions for Corey and he did respond. Everything else looked fantastic in the report. So with that being said, I'd like to make a motion to approve checks 74209 dated 3/19 of 21 through check 74257 dated 4/2 of 21 and approve ACH accounts number 94 through 98 in a total of $170,188.21. And compliments to the team, to Rachel, great job.
Thank you, Noah. Does anybody have any questions or can I get a support for that motion?
Support
Second,
Weiss.
Smith.
Thank you, both. Barb, will you call the roll if there's no questions regarding accounts payable?
Bellinger.
Yes.
Weiss.
Yes.
Rhines.
Yes.
Gilroy.
Yes.
Lanyon.
Yes.
Pratt.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
All right. Thank you very much. All right, moving on. We have our action items for this evening. It is a big list. However, in looking at the packet, everything looks pretty thorough. So we'll start out with the consideration of application and permit for sale and consumption of alcohol beverages in the Howard Dahlstrom Memorial Park for the Red Cedar Jubilee. I'll go ahead and turn this right over. We have Mac Donnelly with us this evening. So welcome, Mac. How you doing?
Doing good.
Great. Does anybody have any questions for Mac regarding the application submission? All right, then I am looking. Yes, Dan, go ahead.
I would just like to inform the rest of council, I'm the sitting Jubilee secretary, and I intend to vote on these action items as long as no one objects.
Great. Thank you so much for giving us that information, Dan. With that being said, would somebody like to make a motion for action item 8A?
I move to approve the application and permit of sale for the consumption of alcoholic beverages in Howard Dahlstrom Memorial Park for the Red Cedar Jubilee. Brandon Lanyon.
Thank you.
Second, Pratt.
Thank you both very much. If there's no questions or discussion.
Add in possibly or McCormick Park, as the application has McCormick Park as an option as well.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
I'll
Thank you,
amend my
Jamie.
motion.
They indicated on their form they want Howard Dahlstrom Memorial Park.
We don't need McCormick Park on there,
Okay.
but thank you.
All right. Thank you both. If there's no discussion or questions, Barb, will you call the roll for this item?
Weiss,
Yes.
Rhines,
Yes.
Gilroy,
Yes.
Lanyon,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Pratt,
Yes.
Bellinger.
Yes.
All right. Our next action item is the consideration of resolution authorizing the application for special license for the Red Cedar Jubilee. Is anybody starting this? If not, I'm looking for a motion.
I'll move.
Motion to approve the license as submitted, Smith.
All right. Thank you.
Second, Lanyon.
Thank you. All right. If there's no discussion or questions for Mac or Dan, since they're both on Red Cedar Jubilee Committee, I'll go ahead and ask Barb to call the roll for this.
Rhines,
Yes.
Gilroy,
Yes.
Lanyon,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Pratt,
Yes.
Bellinger,
Yes.
Weiss.
Yes.
Great. Thank you so much. Mac, thank you for being here this evening. No questions for you. So you guys are doing fantastic work. I mean, I've seen a lot of stuff on social media and it looks like everything's going to be coming together. So feel free to stop back in or have Dan give us an update as we keep getting closer.
And as indicated on the application, when we do renew our insurance in June, we'll give you updated copies of that at that time.
Great. Thank you so much.
Yep.
Appreciate it. All right, moving on. Our action item 8C is the appointment of the representative to the Williamston Area Senior Center Board of Directors. Corey, I didn't see a memo in this, but do you have a suggested representative that you'd like to bring forward?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. One of the concerns about this board is that it's a senior center, so a lot of its members are retired, so they have traditionally met during weekday mornings. Their first, or I guess their annual meeting is May 11th at 11 a.m. That's going to be outside at McCormick Park. One of my thoughts, if there's a council member that has interest, Julie Rudd, who I think you all have met at these meetings, indicated that they would likely move around their board meetings to accommodate a member. So my thought was, if there was a council member that has the opportunity to make the daytime work, that would be option one. You could appoint the city manager as an alternate. I don't think there's anything in the agreement that says it has to be a city council member. Even if it was just for that first initial meeting and then we revisit it. I don't have a great direction here just because of the conflict of it being usually during the day. Other than that, they indicated they would work with us to try to make it more amenable to other people's schedules, especially since they have some other townships that will also be in the same boat.
Sure.
So I guess with that, we kind of threw this on very last minute as I got an email from Julie about it, with the idea that we would just see if there was any council members that, could make something like that work.
Sure. I I am working from home still. The college really does not have any hard date as to when we're all going to be going back. I certainly could make myself available. Corey, I think having you as an alternate would be great. Did they give any indication of how many times this board would meet? Is it going to be a monthly meeting or quarterly?
That I don't know yet. She described the May meeting as the annual meeting. They actually are in the process of amending their bylaws. And so I think a lot of this is very much open to input from the new communities that are helping to fund them.
Okay. Well, I certainly can be available since I am working from home and I'm local. I'm not sure what everybody else's schedule is. So I'll go ahead and if somebody would like to make the motion to approve the mayor with an alternate of city manager as the board representatives.
I'll make a motion to appoint Mayor Tammy Gilroy to be the representative to the Williamston Area Senior Center Board of Directors, with the alternate being City Manager Corey Smith.
Second, Bellinger.
Thank you both. If there's no other discussion or questions regarding it, Barb, will you call the roll?
Gilroy,
Yes.
Lanyon,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Pratt,
Yes.
Bellinger,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Rhines.
Yes.
All right, excellent. Thank you, everyone. Next is our resolution to support a federal community project funding request. Corey, I'll go ahead and turn this right over to you.
All right. Thank you, Mayor. In the packet is a resolution along with a memo to describe this request. This, to all of council, is a bit of a surprise, I'm sure. We got notice just a couple days before March 30th that our U.S. Rep. Alyssa Slotkin was hosting a webinar to talk about this funding opportunity. So from that Tuesday, we had about a week and a half to submit a one-page proposal for like an infrastructure project. This sometimes used to be called like an earmark or pork barrel spending, if anybody's heard those terms. They're trying to create a more transparent process by which to award projects to specific communities. So Representative Slotkin's office in that webinar indicated that they are hopeful to try to target these funds towards small communities where, you know, in our example, $4.8 million would make just a tremendous impact versus maybe a larger entity where, you know, it would be considered more of a drop in the bucket. So that's just simply what they indicated in the webinar with the communities. With such a short time frame, you know, it was difficult to come together with a plan. And so Scott and I spent a lot of time discussing, you know, whether it's wastewater or water system. And the fact that we had recently completed the water reliability study, which had identified improvements in a rough prioritization with rough estimates, that really gave us what we needed to put together the one-page proposal that's included in the packet. And so since the packet printed last Thursday, I got word today that their office received 51 of these one-page proposals, and they're going to select 10 for advancement. So there's a 1 in 5 chance, is that 20%, of Williamston being selected. So one of the things that is encouraged, in fact, probably required, is a resolution of support from the local government. And so I do apologize that there wasn't more time to actually kind of discuss this, but we felt we needed to put our best foot forward, and this was our attempt at doing so. Obviously, there's a little bit of a leap of faith here because depending on, you know, how the grant process goes, there could be a match. And I identified the upper limits of that in the memo. The feedback I got today is that we can submit for the HUD Economic Development Initiative program, which my understanding is there is not a match requirement. And so we are going to pursue that pot if the resolution passes this evening. Other than that, I'm happy to take any questions or comments.
Corey, I just want to say thank you for constantly being on the lookout for opportunities for funding. That's my single comment. Tom?
My only question would be, this sounds awesome, but say we were selected, is there any ideas where we'd come up with the almost $1 million match?
Yeah, Tom, my initial thought is that if we were fortunate enough to get moved forward, that we would earmark our American Rescue Plan funds, which we haven't gotten yet, and they actually haven't even determined 100% what that's going to be. But the initial estimates put that at about $400,000. And so right there, you could use federal funds to leverage further federal funds at about half. And so there we would have about $500,000 left to grab. And, in the water fund in particular, we wouldn't have that kind of cash on hand. And so we would have to look at either a bonding option. Really, it would just be probably a bonding option. And you'd spread that out over, 20 years or so. At that rate, even if it was a $900,000 bond, let's say the American Rescue Plan funds don't come in or council decides to use them elsewhere, I still think at the end of the day to spend, $900,000 to get, I guess at that point it'd be $3.9 million, would still be a pretty darn good deal for the community. And so that's why I said there's a little bit of a leap of faith effort here, but we have thought about that. And that was my initial thought, was that we would use those rescue plan funds to basically become a portion of the match for this larger pot.
Gene, go ahead.
So just playing devil's advocate as a fail-safe, say we get to this point where we're looking to fund a match and there is no good option for us during that period of time, whatever it is there still a requirement that we take that grant, or can we bow out gracefully saying, thanks, but no thanks, should that, funding option just not present itself to us?
Gene, I'm going to just use some previous experiences. Technically, until you've signed and approved a grant agreement, generally speaking, you can bow out. It's not always well received if you do that, because there's sometimes a perception that you've, put yourself in line and then somebody else didn't have an opportunity. And so my experience would tell me that it's never too late until you've signed the dotted line. However, I can't answer that definitively with this grant at this point.
Are you confident we can find a good way to do it then?
I think that what I just, kind of indicated in Tom's question, as far as those American Rescue Plan funds, that has been appropriated. It's been approved. It's just a matter of the U.S. Treasury coming out with the guidance that will tell us how it can be spent. But all the initial indicators are that water and sewer infrastructure is an allowable expense. It's just a matter of when is that going to be delivered and what's the final amount after whatever tweaks are made at the state level.
Awesome.
Corey, do you know what the estimated timeline is for hearing back regarding this?
Yep. So my understanding is that they will take some time in the next couple weeks to whittle the initial requests down to 10, and then those will be posted on the website for review. From there, I was told that they hope that a decision on funding is made in the federal appropriations process by the beginning of 2022.
Okay. All right. If there's no other questions for Corey, I'm looking for motion to move this forward.
Make a motion. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Gene. I'll support it.
Okay. Motion to approve resolution to support federal community project funding request for water distribution system improvements. Smith.
Thank you very much.
Support Weiss.
Thank you. If there's no other questions or discussions, Barb, will you call the roll, please?
Lanyon,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Pratt,
Yes.
Bellinger,
Yes.
Weiss,
Yes.
Rhines,
Yes.
Gilroy.
Yes. All right. Thank you. Next, action item 8E is assessing services contract extension. Corey?
All right. Thank you, Mayor. Before you this evening is an extension of our agreement with our existing assessing contractor. Preston Community Services has been with us since January of 18. That was initially a roughly 3-year contract. It got us through border review this year. Preston Community Services, they've recommended retaining the current fee with a CPI adjustment, which was already built into their contract. That is a fairly reasonable standard, I suspect. One of the things that kind of weighed on me in making this recommendation is that Preston Community Services, they have been undertaking this reappraisal process where they're doing roughly 20% of the community each year. And I think that the consistency of that effort is worth extending at this point. They've made it through roughly 50%. We would have expected it to be closer to 60, but last summer, if you can imagine, being in May, June timeframe with COVID, they did not get as much done as we would have normally expected. In fact, we had some residents that, just did not want us on their property, which is a part of that process. So I think with that, we're recommending that there is a motion to approve the extension. And the extension agreement is a one-pager that references the existing agreement, was reviewed by Mr. Perrone, and would extend it for another 3-year term. I did include the original agreement so that council could see the full terms and conditions.
All right. Any questions for Corey? All right. I'm looking for a motion to move this forward.
Make a motion to approve the extension of the agreement with Preston Community Services LLC for assessing services.
Thank you.
Second, Rhines.
Thank you. If there's no further discussion, I'll ask Barb to call the roll.
Smith,
Yes.
Pratt.
Yeah.
Bellinger,
Yes.
Weiss,
Yes.
Rhines,
Yes.
Gilroy,
Yes.
Lanyon.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Moving on, item 8F is a Taser implementation purchase. And we've got information in here. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Chief. Thank you so much for this information, Chief. If you'd want to go ahead and give us a little bit of background on this.
Sure. This stems just from all the things that have been happening with law enforcement around the nation, and just in my opinion, officers being provoked into a aggressive argument or fight with citizens who want to be the next YouTube wonder. Williamston officers, we currently have mace and a firearm to defend ourselves or to make a forcible arrest if taken to that level. We've got no less lethal option besides those two, or a fist fight. And we know when you get involved into a physical altercation that somebody's most likely going to get hurt. People get their arms hurt, shoulders, knees, be it an officer or a citizen. And then we're kind of looking at the excessive force lawsuits from that. So doing some research into it, I found I couldn't find any officers that weren't carrying tasers except for us. So I did some research with Axon. It's a company that I worked with at MSP, so I had some contacts, and I was familiar with their Taser 60 program, which is a 60-month program where the weapons are paid for over 60 months. There's no interest to pay for those. We have unlimited number of cartridges, warranty on the weapons, Holsters come with that, a training suit, and the training cartridges, along with the live ones, come with that. I have Joe Pintar, Officer Pintar, going to my Taser instructor school on May 4th. So he will be our in-house instructor. So we'll be doing our required training on that as that comes along. So the main reason behind it is obviously to give the guys an option to use less lethal. If you've got a quick second, I'll tell you a story. Officer Pintar had a call of a armed robbery at the total station. I'm thinking it was within the last 6 months. I think the person panicked. Joe observed a black male walking across the street and away from the Speedway gas station, excuse me, and went to approach the subject, and it was a confrontation. The guy would not comply with what Joe was telling him to do, would not remove his hands from his pockets, and at the point where Joe's holding him at gunpoint waiting for backup because it happened that fast. And it could have went ugly so fast. Thank goodness that his backup car, I think it was the Weberville Sheriff's Department car, showed up, and the guy saw 2 officers now, so then he complied and laid down, was taken into custody. It wasn't an armed robbery situation. It was LPD dropping off a person from their town in our city who said he wanted to come here. So as you can imagine how that could have gone ugly if it would have encountered into a deadly force situation with the racial tensions as they are around the country and the state. So we were just very, very lucky on that incident that nothing went bad. So that's my proposal. As you can see, the cost, it's less than $3,000 a year for the 6 weapons for the officers. I think that's extremely reasonable considering what we could be paying out in a excessive force lawsuit, just one.
Great, thank you so much. Questions? Anybody raise your hand so I can call? Jeff.
Yeah, I just got a couple, Chief. Just in my experience, was a trained sergeant at the county, and I'm sure you're at MSP. Would 6 be enough? We always kept spares on hand for when one goes down, because it really sucks to have to get one from someone's locker or something. So I'm just wondering if you should add 2 more. If it's 0 interest, I don't know. I always think I have a couple extra on hand in case one malfunction or goes down that you have to send in. And then just the second one is the second comment is the less lethal policy, if Taser will be included. I'm sure it will, but just those 2 questions.
Thank you.
Yes. As far as the Taser policy, I am working on that. I've been robbing Peter to pay Paul to get one that suits our needs, and so I've been using a couple different departments in the area to see. So I'll have that done. I just send it to Joe Pintar for his review, being the union rep. And as far as the 2 extra ones, I didn't want to be greedy. I wanted to, this is our first time around, and I understand your thinking there. My always thought was, I'll have my goal is to have a combination to the guys' lockers that we have stored at the admin level. So if we have to get something out of there, as in a Taser, or sometimes they forget to take the mic packs off of the cameras in their lockers, we can get to those without damaging them. So I think that's something that I can discuss with Corey if you think we should, and I'll let Gene weigh in on that as well. I've never used the Tasers. I didn't have them when I was on the road. And so I don't know what their the training sergeant or the property sergeant at the post was doing.
Yeah, it was just, I always find it beneficial because if they didn't work, they went out of service, you have to send them into Taser because you can't fix them yourself. So it was always nice to have a couple extra. I know your cost savings mindset, but me, I'm thinking if it's 0% over 5 years, why not add 2 in there to make sure you're well prepared? But I'll let Gene talk.
Go ahead, Gene.
Yeah, well, a couple different aspects. One being law enforcement has a way of throwing our officers into situations that you'd be like, what? there is so much that could go wrong with a taser, especially if you jump in the Red Cedar River to save somebody, or you get in a fight and you fall on it, or you're out in pouring rain and it gets in a little crack that's unsealed itself because you're carrying it every day. There's just so many little things that I think proactively this pricing is extremely fair. The interest-free aspect of that, it makes sense. If you want to justify the purchase, this is the cheapest money that the city could ever spend as far as avoiding liability. And so for me, this is an investment for the city. And I think just that little bit of safety net of adding 2 more units to it would be extremely appropriate. Chief has been, very reserved with his ask here. And of course we appreciate that, but at the same time, he's highlighted a desperate need for this city. We are so far behind the curve here. So I think just adding 2 more units to this would be more than justified.
Corey, would we be able to go ahead and give approval for Chief to pursue this, have him get a new quote with additional tasers, and then he could move forward with that?
Yes, I think that is possible. We just wouldn't know the total amount quite yet, since I was trying to look to see if they gave us like a per unit cost, and
they did. There's
It's on the top.
Yeah, it's
$450 a unit.
Okay.
But Corey, and maybe this is for Tim. If I fashion a motion to add 2 tasers with the price to be considered with the additional 2 tasers, would that be acceptable? So he can go ahead and get them ordered.
Jeff,
you can do that. You might want to make some kind of estimate and then have that a not to exceed. So you're looking at, it looks like almost 2,700 plus another 900 for 2 additional units. So you're looking at like 3,600 perhaps, and you might want to add something more if there's a need for additional, and then have a price not to exceed. Although this also has a grand total here of $13,486
Over the span of the 60 months.
I believe we would add that 900 to the 13,000 and then divide that total there by by 5 years. That would give us our total per year.
Mm-hmm. No, it looks like you had a
yearly.
question.
Yeah, I just have a general question. I like the fiscal responsibility, but Chief, how many people are out on patrol at any given time? And would it be advantageous to have these stored in a general area where when they come in, they pick it up? I mean, we don't have 6 people out on patrol at the same time. Or are these assigned to individuals and they have their own labeled one that they carry? So how does that work? How does that process work?
My intent was to have them assigned to each officer. It's a serial numbered weapon, just like their handgun, their sidearm.
Okay.
When that weapon is fired, it's downloaded and that information is saved.
Okay.
That's going to be downloaded to a report. So if I see taser number 1234 has been utilized, I know that that's assigned to officer so-and-so.
Okay. No, I don't know policing. I don't know the process.
That's my thought behind that versus tractor.
I like that thought better than, because I'm just thinking like when I hand out equipment or phones or whatever, a person's assigned at the beginning of their shift, they pick that one up. There's a log in, log out. It's tracked. So that you always have, if you have 4 people out at one time, you always have 2 in the office as backups. So I'm just, just a different process.
There's also the aspect of being able to field your entire agency at once. If we had a big critical incident or something like that.
I'm not disagreeing. I'm just asking questions. I'm not a police officer. I'm not an expert.
No, that's all good.
Good discussion. Corey?
All right. So if there's a desire to make this motion, I think I've got your numbers. And I'm going to round, but the annual cost is $3,600 for a total cost of $18,000.
All right, thank you, Corey. So, Jeff, did you fashion your motion?
You bet. I'd like to make a motion to approve the Taser implementation purchase and authorize the chief to make the purchase not to exceed $18,000.
Thank you.
Second, Lanyon.
Thank you. If there's no further discussion or questions, Barb, will you call the roll?
Real quick, Corey,
Oh.
are you sure on the 18,000? Should we just make it like not to exceed 19,000 just in case?
I mean, if they're 450 a piece, I think I did the math right.
All right.
But
And Chief, when you get your new quote with the additional two, could you have Corey just forward that to us so that way we're all seeing what you're moving forward on?
I will send that email as soon as we are done with this meeting.
All right, great. Thank you. All right, Barb, will you call the roll, please?
Pratt,
Yes.
Bellinger,
Yes.
Weiss,
Yes.
Rhines,
Yes.
Gilroy,
Yes.
Lanyon,
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Chief, thank you so much for putting the time and effort into this. It's a good movement forward, I think, especially with everything that you just were talking about and our current, climate out there. So I really appreciate the fact that you're giving them an additional tool to use.
You're welcome, ma'am.
All right, next on the agenda, action items 8G is the boardwalk replacement grant design engineering agreement change order 1. Corey, you've got a good memo in here. Is there anything else that you wanted to add to that?
one thing I did not note is that this should be the conclusion of the design engineering agreement. So that would wrap that up. The project we expect will be out for bid by this Friday with a May 7th letting date, which is the date that they're due. So we will then be moving into the permitting, or I'm sorry, the construction phase. There will likely be a contract forwarded to the city from MDOT, which will go through the 2-step approval process with DDA and council, as well as a contract for the construction engineering portion of the project too. So being MDOT, we have to do that. We have to have on-site inspection pretty much for the duration of the project. So we're working on that and expect you'll see that at one of the next couple meetings.
Great, thank you. Dan, go ahead.
So I have a question. I see that this change order is because of a permit denial. Spicer was the original engineer on this, right? Well, they worked on the original permit that was denied. So I guess my question is, if they did the work on the original permit that was denied, why are we being passed on the cost of getting the new permit?
Good question.
Them doing the engineering work for us to receive the new permit.
Yeah, that's a good question, Dan. The design that was put forward was a retention or retaining wall. And we had reason to believe that that would be permittable through Eagle. But due to the amount of fill that was being proposed, Eagle kicked it back. And so on our behalf, they worked with us to come up with a different solution that involved dropping the height of the sidewalk and putting in a thicker curb against the side of the earth between the curb of the road and the curb of the sidewalk. And so through that process of designing that, we had to have a change. If the desire is to go back because that was their design, I suppose we could ask that question. But at this point, they undertook that work on our behalf. That retaining wall option was something that we had all agreed would be the preference for that site there, but it was denied through the Eagle process.
I can jump in also on not necessarily specifically, but as someone who deals with Eagle quite regularly, they aren't always very clear on what they will and will not accept. So it's not necessarily the engineer's fault. Sometimes Eagle just isn't very explicit in what is required, and they oftentimes will reject plans and make you redo them. So this isn't a unique situation at all for Eagle. This is quite par for the course for them.
All right. Thanks for that insight, Brandon. Dan, did you have something else?
Is this the full cost of what would normally be the engineering charge for that permit? I guess if it's, we were all in it together, we all agreed that would be it, maybe we take a hit, they take a hit, I guess. I don't know. I guess I don't understand how the entire cost is being passed on to the customer when it was a joint whatever that's costing the city $6,000.
So Corey, can I ask a question? So when our permit was denied, which was based off of the original design, therefore Spicer had to go back and re-engineer and redesign so that we could resubmit to Eagle. So they had to do new work to come up with the raised curb, correct? So because of the denial by Eagle, we had to go back to the drawing board, so to speak, and come up with, Spicer had to come up with something that Eagle would accept.
That is exactly what happened. We had basically designed one set of plans for that permit, and through their review process, it was kicked back, which in the work change order, they had to create new vertical alignment options, which is a technical way of saying they had to redesign it. I mean, they had to come up with a different plan. There's no reason for me to believe that what they submitted was, somehow not fully formed as far as an idea that would work. I think that, I'm trying to be a bit pleasant in describing the experience with Eagle. I think what Brandon said is what I really wanted to say. But they kicked it back, and that's what happened. So
I got you.
Council wants to pursue a different direction. We can do that for sure. We did not attempt to negotiate this fee down, as far as I'm aware, before bringing it forward.
And as far as our budget on this, Corey, with this additional $5,800, do we have wiggle room with our budget? Is this increase a concern for you with the budgeted, with this project?
So I noted in the memo that the streets fund and the general fund contribution are not anticipated to need a budget amendment. The DDA fund needs a budget amendment, but that would be, dealt with by the DDA.
Okay. Dan, you're on mute if you're trying to communicate with us.
Oh, sorry. Budget wise, this was originally a DDA project that we jumped into to help them out. So we did not budget anything. We put in $10,000, which will now be up to close to 16. I'm not saying we're blowing it out of the water, but it was never allocated.
Yeah, we have a general contracted services line item within our parks department, which is where we funded this year, absent, another project within that department. I'm really of the belief with this project that we are trying to pull in one direction as a community to accomplish something that, frankly, I believe has been in the plans for 40 years. And so, yes, we've had to flex and make it work through streets department, general fund, DDA, to try to take advantage of this grant. and potentially, what we're going to talk about next, which is the Public Spaces Community Places grant. And so we're trying to leverage, $250,000 through the state appropriation that sort of fell in our laps about a year ago, and trying to replace a tired asset to achieve a vision that I think has been identified for a lot of years for Old Mill Park, which is a park. It's owned by the DDA, and certainly the DDA is pulling as much weight as it can on this.
Thank you, Corey. Any other questions for Corey before I ask for a motion to move this forward? Okay, I'm looking for somebody to bring a motion forward for this item.
I'll make a motion to approve the boardwalk replacement grant design and engineering agreement change order number 1, Lanyon.
Thank you. Do I have support for that motion?
Board Smith.
Thank you. Any further discussion or questions before I ask for the roll? Okay, Barb, will you call the roll?
Bellinger,
Hello?
Bellinger,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Rhines,
Yes.
Gilroy,
Yes.
Lanyon,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Pratt.
Yes.
All right, thank you, Barb. Our last action item for this evening is the Public Spaces Community Places contribution. So Corey, you've got your memo here. I'll turn it over to you, and then if anyone has any questions.
All right, this is another topic related to Old Mill Park, the boardwalk replacement, and the associated site improvements. As the memo outlined, we are trying to put together this Public Spaces Community Places grant. And between the commitments from the Garden Club, the Phyllis Chirico family, which is donating money toward site amenities at the park, and what I think are some pretty reasonable verbal agreements that we've gotten from a few community members, I think that we are really close where if we set $30,000 as a fundraising goal, we would be reasonably assured that that goal would be met. And in talking through this, one of the ideas that we thought about was if the city was the final funder, we could set $40,000 as a goal and basically know that the city would be the backstop. So if we raised $32,000 through the community and we needed 8 to get to that 40 number to guarantee the match, the city could do that. Or if there's a great community outpouring for this, the city could be on the hook for 0. But it was something I thought of as an opportunity as I talked with the Michigan Economic Development Corporation about who can donate and whether different city entities can do that. They indicated that they can. That's a similar dynamic that we're working with the Garden Club, because they have 2 specific pots of money that are going toward this area. And so their 2 distinct donations can count, even though in total there'll be more than $10,000. And so the request is to approve a contribution up to $10,000 from the Parks Department budget, which would hit, I guess it could hit as early as this fiscal year, depending on when we launch. That is something that is not included in the budget. There's not a line item for that specific donation. But again, as I alluded to in the previous comments, in trying to make this project happen, trying to get our various boards and committees and community members to go forward, I thought it was a worthwhile thing to consider. Certainly appreciate if there are, comments or feelings differently. And if that's the case, we would likely go for a lesser number, just to be assured that we would be able to hit our donation goal.
All right, Tom, go ahead.
So I guess mine's kind of a 2-part question. One being, if worst case scenario, we have to come up with that grant, do we have an idea of where that could come from? I guess we'll just start there.
Yeah, Tom. So the budget that I just sent out before this meeting to council includes a forecast column for this fiscal year. And one of the benefits of doing that was that the estimate we had for state revenue sharing from about this time last year was sort of doom and gloom based on the state's forecasts. And that revenue in particular has come in much better than anticipated. We're actually tracking to be above what we got last year. And so all told, the general fund as of about 5:30 this evening is projected to increase its fund balance by about $165,000 in this fiscal year. And so we've got the revenue flexibility to make that call this year within this budget without significantly impacting our fund balance, as the year concludes.
Oh, thank you, Corey. So I guess my second part of that question was just that, if I understood it correctly, if we went for 30,000 instead of 40,000, that would pretty much already be a guarantee without the city kicking in anything. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think that we'd be really close. And so we'd be counting on, some people that haven't made verbal commitments that maybe haven't even heard about this yet, thinking it's a worthwhile endeavor to donate their personal funds to. The DDA is going to consider a similar motion as this at their next meeting, and that may allow a little bit more flexibility as well. And so I anticipate, because it's their project, they will do that, because they can turn, $10,000 of their match into 20, simply with a motion. And that is something that the MEDC reps have said a lot of communities have done that sort of as the jumpstart contribution for these projects.
Thank you, Corey. Other questions? Dan? You're on mute.
Sorry, I keep hitting the wrong button. I apologize. We were just talking earlier tonight about the federal grant for water and all that, and the possibility of having to come up with a $900,000 match. We all love our parks, and we paid for the engineering over at the new Volunteers Park. I think it was last year, the year before. We're putting now close to 15 towards this boardwalk project. I think we've shown some commitment as the city towards helping out with our parks, but that's also discretionary money that we can put aside for some of these other things that are coming up that we need money for.
Any other questions or comments from council members? Yes, Brandon.
For clarification, this is matching money, right? Like, we're not just MEDC is going to match. If we get 40,000, I'm trying to, in your memo, it says that if we 40,000, then MEDC will kick us 40,000 more.
Yes, Brandon. If we have to meet the number we set. So
Yep.
if we set it at 40 and we raise 35, there's no match. But if you meet your goal, then you double your money effectively.
Right. And I know that you had brought this forward a couple council meetings ago. So if you're feeling comfortable with the $40,000 mark, but that's if we kick in 10,000 of our own, if we get community funds of 30,000 or close to that.
Yeah. Yep. That would be, I guess the worst case scenario is if we raised, if the community supported by raising 30, then to get to the 40, we would have to have a max contribution of 10 from the general fund.
Okay. All right. Any other questions before I call for a motion on this? All right. I'm looking for a motion for this last action item.
I would move to approve I don't know how to make it. I would make a motion to approve a total cap of $10,000 as a single donor to the city to the public spaces, community places grant process.
All right, thank you. Do I have support for that motion? No support for that motion?
I'll support it, Bellinger.
All right. Any other discussion or questions before I ask Barb to call the roll?
It's just
Yes, go ahead, Jean.
real quick. Okay, we're saying up to 10,000. So say we don't even get the 30 in donations, there would be no chance of us on the hook for 15 then, or anything like that, right?
Correct.
Correct.
Yep.
Yes, go ahead, Tom.
Sorry to keep delaying this, but so then my question would be, if the city came up with 25, we cap at 10, could we would already have said that we were going to try and raise 40, right? So we couldn't backtrack and say, now the city will pitch in 5,000 on the city's 25 to make it 30, right? I mean, if you commit to 40, you have to make 40, correct?
Yes, Tom, once you launch, whatever that number is, that's the number you have to reach in order to achieve the match. So you cannot change it retroactively.
Would we be safer to shoot for 30, being that it's more of a surefire, most likely guarantee?
Yeah, if this motion fails, I think it's going to be 30. It might be 32. I think that's what I feel reasonably confident that we can achieve as a community. Again, based on the feedback that we've gotten so far, I think it would be imprudent to set it at 40 if there was not that assurance that there would be a contribution getting us back to that number via this.
And the other thing is that our community could step forward and we could hit the $40,000 contribution from the community and not have to kick in the 10. So, I get where Corey's coming from, that, we want to try to submit an application with a maximum dollar amount, knowing that, okay, we get public contributions of 38,000, the city kicks in 2,000. So it's fluid. It's not a definite $10,000 contribution from the city. It could be zero.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So I had a motion. I had support. Any other discussion? Barb, will you call the roll, please?
Weiss,
Yes.
Rhines,
No.
Gilroy,
Yes.
Lanyon,
Yes.
Smith,
No.
Pratt. Pratt, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Tom,
You guys-
I don't think you came through.
Something's wrong with my computer here.
Oh.
Oh,
My vote, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
yes.
My vote would be no.
Bellinger,
Yes.
All right. Thank you all for the good discussion on that. My hope is that our community shows up and contributes, and we don't have to tap into general funds on this. It's a risk, but I think, like Corey did explain, and I think like we've all had discussion, this is a big project. And if we can do something to try to raise funds and not use dollars, that's always good. I think Corey has been very forward thinking on this, on how to leverage funds and how to bring money into the city. So I do appreciate all the votes that just, took place on that last action item. And Corey, keep us, up to date with how this moves forward when you submit the application. That concludes the action items for this evening. We don't have any discussion items. There was no correspondence received, so I'll move right forward to the department head reports. Corey, we have your report. Would you like to add anything? Or did anybody have any questions for Corey regarding his report?
I would like to add one thing that's not in there that it also I didn't reference in the budget letter that went out today. Ingham County a major amount of American Rescue Plan funds, the same pot of money we've talked about a few times. And I was in conversation with the administrator over there, and he indicated that their board and their staff are considering creating a pot of that money that would support local water and sewer infrastructure projects. Generally speaking, counties don't typically have that type of infrastructure. And so I think they're looking at a way to, try to use that as an eligible expense to support that kind of work. My understanding is that that's very early in their discussion process. We were given a submission form to submit project ideas to the county staff and consider that. And so, if that's something council, would support, I would encourage you to reach out to your county board representative to perhaps get some more information and discuss that. We just got that last Friday, and there's a bit of a window to consider that. And so we will likely have some more information to bring on that in the coming meetings as far as what to consider to submit for. But it was just another pot of money similar to what was approved earlier tonight for the federal community funding project that is something that we're looking at trying to take advantage of.
Thank you, Corey. Any questions for Corey regarding his report? Yes, Brandon.
Not in your report, but have you had any communication with MDOT about what's going on with the bridge? The light's been there for a while. I know we had the truck fire. I was just wondering if you had heard anything from them about when they were going to start repairs to get that opened up.
Brandon, I have not. I see Tom raising his hand. Maybe he has something.
Go ahead, Tom.
I filled in for Jeff at the NISA meeting last, whenever that was, and they were talking about that a little bit. And it sounds like that bridge is going to have to go through a hard closure for quite some time because the concrete pillar continues to keep spalling. So I don't know when that hard closure is going to take place, but I think we can all look forward to a point throughout the summer of no bridge for quite a while.
All right. Thank you. All right. If nobody else has any other questions for Corey, I'll move on to Chief.
Not a lot to report except that Officer Blaine Fortune, he completed his tour of duty last week. He left to go back to his hometown in Davison, and we hired Michael Pearl. His first day was this morning. We'll get him upfitted. He did his physical and got sworn in today. So we'll get him his uniform. He'll start on midnights next week with an FTO with Joe Pintar. So hopefully we'll have a short FTO phase since he has experience, and we can get him working the road.
All right.
We still have one vacancy that's posted through the MACP, and hoping to get somebody apply. That's all I got.
All right. Thanks, Chief. Any questions for Chief? All right. We did receive our Livingston County Building Department report. We also have Rachel's Treasury report. So if you have questions regarding that, please follow up either with Corey or with Rachel directly. Any subcommittee reports that anybody would like to share? Yes, go ahead, Jeff.
Yes, I appreciate Tom filling in for the NISA meeting for me a couple of weeks ago. I attended the one last Thursday night. It was an in-person meeting. And if you see any of the NISA members, show your appreciation for their what they've been doing. They've been extremely busy. They were running field fires multiple times a day when it was during the dry conditions, and offered mutual aid area fire departments. I saw them up in Shiawassee County 3 times within a week, assisting Perry Fire on structure fires and big field fires. So thank your firefighter the next time you see one. They're doing a great job. And that's all I have about NISA.
Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate that. Anyone else like to share committee reports? All right. Moving around, I'll do council member comments. I'll start with Noah up in the top corner.
No comments for tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
All right, Jeff.
Nope, just a comment about Nisa doing a great job. And Corey, thanks for getting everything squared away like you do. Thanks.
Thanks, Jeff. Brandon.
Nothing besides future good luck to Corey. Hopefully we won't see you at the next meeting, right?
All right. Thank you, Dan.
I just want to thank Nisa and our Corey and our staff. You guys all put together, do a great job, and you put together great packets, and you do a great job trying to get us access to different pots of money for the city. Where I was just coming from tonight with the different things with the parks is, since I've been on council, we have it's been a goal to fix our infrastructure, and it's been a kind of a gaping hole for a long time. And I know you're working hard to try and fix that as well. But I just feel like sometimes some of this discretionary money needs to be set aside for that. But thank you for all the work you do.
Gene?
Oh, just a big best wishes to Corey and his family for the little adventure they're getting ready to have here.
Thank you. Tom?
Only thing for me is I'd mirror that, and Corey, good luck, and hope all turns out fantastic.
Corey, I think we'll be able to handle things while you are temporarily away. So best wishes to you, your family, with this addition, and that everything goes just fantastic for you guys. I want to say thank you to the entire staff for all of your hard work with looking at these different opportunities to bring money into our city, into our community, that don't affect our tax dollars from our residents. Taking on projects like these is always a very big undertaking. The boardwalk definitely has been in the works for a very long time. So I'm super happy to see that moving forward. Corey, I would have to say in the time that you've been here, I think this is the most I've ever seen opportunities for funding come through that we are pursuing. And sometimes you have to pick up a lot of different rocks in order to find something underneath it that would be worth our time and effort, because it takes city staff time and effort to put these, the information together, to put the packets together. So I really appreciate the work of the staff and everybody giving it their best shot to bring that funding to the city. It is April. The weather is changing. We have our new, not new, but city services of picking up brush and limbs. So that is available out there. Overnight parking has expired as of the end of March. So I would just tell everybody enjoy springtime, yard cleanup. It's something that we look forward to after a long winter. It seemed like winter was a little shorter this year. So with that, that's my comments for this evening. Thank you, council members, for all the good discussion, all the good questions. We definitely keep Corey on his toes, I think. And that's a good thing. So with that, I will go ahead and adjourn this evening's council meeting at 8:08.